This is Umar for BoxNation. We're back in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. The world's attention again will be on Riyadh season for Usyk Fury 2. I'm joined by Kevin Lerena, who's brought his boy on some experience, your little son. You've brought him first time he's travelled properly, and what an occasion to bring him to, Kevin.
Most definitely. I promised him, I said to him, if I don't fight in December, I promise you I'll take you to watch Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk 2. And I'm a man of my word, and he's just ecstatic to be here, and it's a great experience. So, I'm humbled that I'm able to do these things with my boy and with my children, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. All the sacrifice and everything we do is for them.
I'm sure he'll enjoy it, but you said he's asleep. He's getting some rest because it's a long journey from Johannesburg, South Africa to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, isn't it? How long?
Most definitely, it's obviously two connecting flights. You've got about 9 hours to Dubai, an hour in Dubai, and then 2 hours to here. So for a youngster, it's a lot of flying. So he's catching up on some rest so he can enjoy the rest of the week and all the festivities that are coming.
But you're used to coming to Riyadh. I know you really like it. You enjoy your time here. And you had a brilliant fight out with Justice Hooney last time. A very close fight, actually. And Justice is rated highly as a heavyweight. So with that performance, you've had a bit of inactivity as well, Kevin. You've been out the ring since then. What is the latest on yourself? Are you looking at a big fight potentially soon?
Most definitely. Obviously, the fight with Hooney could have gone either way. He's a highly rated fighter, and I believe I'm a highly rated fighter too. That needs to be respected, and that's what happens in boxing. Unfortunately, there has to be a loser, or it's a draw, and I was the loser on the evening. But what's next for me? Obviously, I was elevated to WBC Bridgerweight World Champion. I was the interim champion. Lawrence Okoli became world champion, and he vacated the belt to go up and seek opportunities at heavyweight. So obviously, we got the opportunity to defend the Bridgerweight world title against maybe we'll have a voluntary choice against the WBC silver champion or against whoever we choose. There's obviously been talks between Spencer and boxer Riyadh and his team, I believe, showed interest in wanting to challenge me for that. And I was very open to that. I think Richard Riyadh is a very good fighter. He's a big puncher, but I believe in my skills and I believe in my tenacity and what I can do and what I can bring to the table. So I think it makes for a great fight. And I've always said I want to be in the best fights possible and I want to challenge myself. I've never been a guy who wants to cherry pick. I want to fight the best of the best and challenge myself, because at the end of the day, that's what boxing's about, and that's what Riyadh season's about. It's putting the best fights on. So I think Lerena and Riyadh could definitely do well in the UK, and also it could be a fight that could be appealing to Riyadh season to host the J in Saudi Arabia. So obviously we need to let the higher powers discuss that, and I'm open for anything. There's always opportunity at heavyweight. Obviously, it's known that I dabble between the two weight divisions, and a good dance partner for anybody, I guess. I'm all about exciting fights and taking it to the people that I fight. And if you can ask anybody that's seen me fight, whether it was Daniel Dubois, Justice Hooney, or whoever it was, I'm never in a boring fight. That's not my style. Stylistically, I like to bring the action, and that will always make for a great fight. So let's wait and see. Hopefully we'll get out soon. I think early in the new year we'll be fighting. I just don't know who yet.
So, Kevin, clearly from the way you're talking, you're all in for that fight with Richard Riyadh. Have you had any contact via Spencer, your manager, from their side about whether they're willing to take that fight with you?
Most definitely. I think our trainer manager, or co-managed by Peter and Spencer Brown, they've been in touch with Boxer and I think Ben Shalom, from what I understand. There was interest in it. How far the discussions have gone, I don't partake in any of that. But I think it's a fight that makes a whole lot of sense. Richard obviously came up short against Chris Billam-Smith for the cruiserweight world titles. I still rate him highly. A loss doesn't define you. A man needs to be respected, and I think he's got that concussive power, especially in the cruiserweight division. And I think he could bring it up. And I think Bridgerweight's a very good step for all guys who are looking to go up to heavyweight. Obviously, I've been at heavyweight, faced Daniel Dubois, faced Justice Hooney and Marius Vach and those guys. So I know what it's like to fight heavyweight, but it's nice for me to dabble between the two. And obviously, I'm a smaller heavyweight at only 6'1" and 230 pounds. The heavyweights these days are very big. So there's a new weight division, but it's opportunity at basically, excuse the pun, bridging the gap between the massive heavyweights and the smaller heavyweights.
Okay. So there could be a potential fight there with Richard Riyadh. In terms of other things, I was at the WBC convention in Hamburg last week, and they actually discussed you, Rich Suleiman and the panel, about potentially doing a fight in Ukraine. So what are your feelings towards that? Is that something you're open to? Like, what's the latest on that?
You know what? I'm not adverse to it. I'm not against it. I just think it's got to be worth my while for me to head out to a foreign country, whether it's Ukraine, Poland, wherever it is. Wherever I'm going to travel, it's got to be worth my while. I need to be treated as the champion, and it's got to be lucrative enough for me and my team to come there. And obviously, there's talks about me fighting a Ukrainian fighter who's rated in the bridgerweight. I think he's the WBC silver champion, if I'm not mistaken, and that makes sense for me. I believe it's a good fight for me. It's a nice fight for me to stay current and to get to keep winning. We don't overlook anybody, but for me to go to Ukraine, it's got to be worth my while. So I know my team are in discussions with with the Ukrainian team and the Ukrainian promoters to make it more feasible for me and more inviting for me and more tasteful. But yeah, I'm not adverse to it. I'm not against going to Ukraine or any of those places. I'm a fighter at the end of the day. But I know the Ukraine want to do something big with the WBC, so it would be nice to be part of that event. But I'm not just going for any sort of money. It needs to be worth my while, and I need to be treated as a champion. And my management team are well aware of that, and they're discussing that with the Ukrainian team. And the Ukrainian team, from what I understand, have been very forthcoming. So that's another option to go out there and fight and defend my WBC Bridgeweight World Title in Ukraine. And obviously, it would be a big event for the WBC because the WBC is obviously very much big on building boxing in the Ukraine, from what it seems. But then there's the option of as we mentioned to me, of Richard Riakporhe and obviously Frank Warren. He's got all the heavyweights, or most of the 90% of the top heavyweights. So there's always big heavyweight fights to be made amongst the Queensberry guys. So yeah, the options are there. Just how we navigate's the most important thing right now.
With your managers, has there been discussions around potentially doing a deal with Queensbury and Frank Warren or any other promotional company?
Yes, obviously after I fought Hooney, Frank was very much on my side and on my team's side. Obviously what happened, having lost my mother the day before the fight. Stepping into the ring and giving the best I could on the evening with all the emotional stress that I had to endure. Frank and his team, Queensbury and Spencer Goldstar, have always been behind me. Have always been good to me, and they've always said and echoed that we need to do something. So I think it's about just navigating how we can do it. But obviously, that's obviously up to my managers and Frank and George and Queensbury to see how they can do something together. But I do definitely think it's an option. I do definitely think there's something on the table for everybody. Whether I think I'm very fortunate enough that I have the bridgeweight, I have the opportunity to fight at heavyweight. We know I can do that. And there's been thoughts going through my mind if I could make the 200-pound cruiserweight limit again to get those big fights. But I've always said if I had to go back down to cruiserweight and drop from 230 pounds, I'd have to. It would have to be very welcoming and inviting for me. But the cruiserweight division is hot at the moment. You've got Zerdo Ramirez, who's doing really well. Jai Alpataya, who's doing phenomenally well. I rate him as a very good boxer. He's a highly skilled fighter. So the cruiserweight division is exciting. Obviously, the bridgerweight division, not as exciting as the cruiserweight division. It's still developing and growing. We saw with Lawrence, he won the belt in great fashion. He vacated and went up to heavyweight. The pinnacle will always and will forever shall be the heavyweight division. So I guess let's see what happens. But I'm open to doing deals. I know my team is. Spencer's done the world of good for me, being in camp with Tyson and always looking out for me. And as I said, Frank Warren always treated me with the utmost respect. So hopefully we can do something in the future.
Well, if there is a deal to be done with Frank, I'm guessing it's going to require you to be at heavyweight because what springs to mind are names like David Adelaide, Fabio Wardley, even Lawrence Okoli, who you linked with before. I know he's got Moses Talma as well, and you get on with Moses, but listen, business is business. Plenty of heavyweights I've just named there that could easily be done if you did sign with Frank. So I guess if that move was to happen, it probably would require you going to heavyweight, Kevin.
Most definitely. Obviously, the first initial deal we're going to do was going to be at Bridgerweight when Lawrence was the Bridgerweight champion. And obviously, that fight fell through. Obviously, Lawrence wanted to move up to heavyweight and seek heavyweight opportunities, which is very understandable. But it would make sense for Queensberry to look at aligning me with their heavyweights. They've got great heavyweight talent. They got the King and Tyson Fury, all the way down to the up and comers who are doing extremely well. You mentioned a few names there, David Adelaide, who just had a terrific win over Solomon Dakers. There's a lot of fighters in the Queensberry stable. Lawrence Okoli, who were meant to fight at heavyweight, and then obviously he's gone up and he had a great. I mean, we're meant to fight at Bridgerweight. He went up to heavyweight and he had a great victory. Listen, to be fair, he had a great victory. It was a good entry into the heavyweight division, but that guy's no world beater that he fought. So I'll always be there to test anybody. And Frank Warren and Queensberry Promotions do have the heavyweight stock at the moment. So obviously it would align, and I'm pretty sure they would want me to fight at heavyweight. You're going to have to ask him that question.
I have interviewed him this week, but I will do something else with him, and maybe we'll drag you into the interview at one of the things during this week.
That sounds good.
The workouts of the presser this week. We can drag you in for a couple of minutes with Frank. Just to close off, Kevin, look, you spent some time, 3 or 4 weeks in Malta, in Tyson's camp. I'm hearing a lot of positive things about his camp, about his focus, a bit of a difference in mentality, or quite a bit of a difference in his mentality. But do you think when it comes to the actual game plan on Saturday night, because he was doing so well in the mid part of that fight, is to essentially stick to that and just make some minor adjustments? Is that a fair reflection of what we're going to see from him on Saturday?
Most definitely. I think the key with boxing and the key to being successful is not reinventing the wheel. Tyson Fury knows what he does best. He knows where he's very good, and he's obviously knows where he's vulnerable. So it's up to him to make those minor adjustments. He was doing very well in the first fight. The first fight was a very close fight. A lot of people are very quick to just talk about the round 9, but you've got to look at all the other rounds. Tyson Fury was doing really well. Oleksandr Usyk's a phenomenal talent, a phenomenal fighter, and one of the best in the world at the moment. And I think the focus that Tyson has is the key in the winning factor for this fight. I think he's been very focused. I was in training camp with him for 4 weeks, and it was great to be there. Got some good rounds in sparring. He's had some good sparring partners. He's had Moses Etama assisting him. I've been assisting him, a young Russian guy, Alexei Dronov, Alexis Barreri, Fernelli. So he's had all different types of sparring, guys that are all southpaws, but very different styles. So I think stylistically, he'll be prepared for what Oleksandr Usyk has to offer. But now it's about him having to execute his game plan. And I think if he focuses on his game plan and he does what he does best and he knows what he needs to do, I think we're going to see a very, very exciting fight like the first one. But obviously, I'm in Team Tyson's camp. Team Fury's only been good to me, but realistically, it's a hard fight for both fighters. Both fighters are terrific fighters. We need to be realistic here. And it's a fight that can go either way at any given time. But Tyson is really tuned in. He's focused. And I think he wants to do damage. And I think that's a dangerous Tyson. It almost reminds me of, I think we spoke about it earlier, the Deontay Wilder 2 fight. It's the same mentality. And I think that's a dangerous Tyson Fury. But I'm excited, and that's why I'm here, to support Tyson and to see arguably the second biggest fight of the year, because I think the first one was the biggest, and this is now the second biggest.
Those mid rounds I alluded to in the first fight, the uppercut to both head and body was working phenomenally for him. Do you think we're going to see more of that? But also, what we didn't see in the first fight from Tyson was him using his physicality, getting close, leaning on him, making Usyk aware that you're in with the bigger man. So do you think we're going to see a bit of a mix from Tyson, that sweet science we saw in the first fight, but mixed in with a bit of brutality?
Obviously as a sparring partner, we don't 100% know the game plan, what him and Sugar are discussing. But one thing I can say, I think if he applies his physicality for some parts of the fight and he uses that slick boxing style and range that he's so good at, I think that's what he needs to do. Incorporate the two. Sorry.
It's all right. Maybe it's Richie Rackball's team.
It's not. I think he needs to incorporate the two. And I think by him incorporating the two styles, the aggressive, come forward, strong, and then also back to boxing, being slick, moving, I think that's what will be the key in this fight. Mid-range, I think, is where Oleksandr Usyk is very dangerous. He's a very good counter puncher. So I think you're either in or you're out and you're doing what he does best, and that's boxing. And you spoke about the uppercuts. In the first fight, I think that was it's one punch. Everyone goes, well, it's the uppercut, it's the uppercut. You can't see that uppercut, and I can tell you that because I've sparred Tyson many rounds. He's got a terrific uppercut, and you don't know when it's coming. So when you think you're timing him, you're finding him, boom, out of nowhere, he throws something, and you immediately go, you need to respect that. So I think it's a good fight. I think Tyson can use some of the bullying tactics, being the bigger man, but you can't do that for the whole fight. So how he uses it and how he goes back to his boxing, and I believe that's when he's at his best, when he's using his range, boxing behind the jab, moving. You can't hit him. Like I said, some sparring sessions, It was after one of the sparring sessions. I couldn't put it on him. I couldn't land him because he was so slick. So I think he's got the ability to do both. And I think that's the key factor. And obviously, remember, Oleksandr Usyk's going to have a game plan for Tyson Fury too. So as much as Tyson has a game plan for Oleksandr, Alexander's got a game plan for Tyson, and that's what makes it a great fight. So I guess we're only going to see on Saturday night who's got the better game plan and who can execute it to the best of their ability.
Kevin, thank you very much for your time. Listen, drop me a message when you get some fight news.
I will, indeed.
As I said, thank you very much for your time. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you.